So I'm very excited to be able to go ahead and do my presentation now, which is actually we've got a theme going on here, right? And this theme is the 0 point of non-judgment. And so this conversation that I'm about to have is, of course, all about that. And how we look at that is truly through the eyes of emotions. Emotions are absolutely everything. And it's so important for us to kind of understand them. So one of the ways that I look at this really is I break down the emotions that we can possibly have into two separate categories. One is the terrestrial emotions. These emotions are the ones that we have as humans on this particular planet. And they're very special because they are very unique to us. We think about it from the perspective of ourselves all the time. But we are multidimensional beings, right? So our higher versions of ourselves, our higher selves, or even us as source, we look at the emotions that these human beings can have as these incredible, special emotions, because it requires that you can actually die. And the only way to have these emotions here on this planet, it is the fact that we can die. When we are our higher selves, when we are source, we are infinite and we know it. So even if we wanted to try to tap into fear, it wouldn't work. It isn't possible. So the only way to do that is to actually believe that you can perish, believe that you can die, and think that it's all over after that. And so that is the experience that we have here. Fear is the first emotion. If you think about it, even multicellular microscopic organisms, when introduced with some sort of dangerous chemical, they jettison themselves away from it because they don't want to die, right? And so if multicellular organisms display fear, then you better believe that we humans definitely have it. And that is the signature characteristic of a 3D existence. Fear is the dominant emotion. So what else do we know about the terrestrial emotions? They're imperative for survival, right? But mostly they're temporary. So you can go through life and have extreme emotions. You can go through a month, a day, and go from excitement and go from frustration to anger to disappointment to gratitude. You can do that in a day. You can do that in an hour. So sometimes we get wrapped up into thinking that these emotions are endless, that we're going to have them our entire lives. But of course, that's not true at all. And they're so temporary that even if for some crazy reason you had one emotion your entire life, which is actually absolutely impossible, that emotional experience ends when you die and you return to your higher self. You return to that afterlife state. That emotion is gone. So the terrestrial emotions are truly temporary. Okay, so that's the terrestrial emotions quickly. There's another category, and we often don't talk about this category of emotions because, as far as we know, there's really only one, and that is the spirit emotions, and that is unconditional love. If you think about it from the perspective of, do we get to experience unconditional love here on this planet? There's an interesting question there, because it is not imperative for survival. So if you are living in primitive Earth and you are with your tribe and you are trying to experience, or you are experiencing unconditional love for all, it is very likely that if you experience unconditional love for all, you might unconditionally love the predator. And at that moment, at that indecision moment, you say, "Oh, I love you, predator." Rah! And then it's all over. That really shows that unconditional love is not an evolutionary emotion that we get to experience. So that makes it kind of an interesting thing. Meanwhile, as you are the higher self, as you are source, that is the only emotion that you experience. You constantly experience unconditional love. And the other difference, major difference between the terrestrial emotions and unconditional love is that unconditional love is eternal. It is not temporary like the terrestrial ones. You always return to unconditional love. And when you are in those higher states, that is the emotion that you are constantly experiencing. Okay. So we come to this planet because of that very interesting difference. Yes, we come to this planet because we have a mission. We want to help the world. We want to help each other. We want to raise a family or help children or whatever our specific mission is. We're bringing with us these incredible gifts that we're going to give to others, and we're going to help the world. Yes, that is our mission. But to step back just another step, we actually observe this emotional experience as the reason. Because what did we just talk about? We can't experience them otherwise. So, wow, that sounds very interesting. I want to experience what it's like to have romantic love. If you are source, if you are source consciousness, you cannot have romantic love. If you did, then you would have to create your partner, and that wouldn't quite feel the same. Plus, you don't have a yang to your yin. You actually would be, because you are both yin and yang. So there's no reason to have romantic love. So we actually have to very specifically and intentionally forget that we are infinite and forget that we are all powerful as source, or even as our higher selves. We're much more powerful than with these limited three-dimensional beings. So we have to forget all of that so that we can come here and actually take this all seriously and actually give it a chance, give ourselves a chance to experience these emotions. When we look at it in this way, it puts it all into a different context, doesn't it? It's like, oh, maybe I don't need to run away from these emotions all the time. Maybe I can actually experience these emotions and relish them, whether they're good or they're bad. I know it doesn't sound easy to do because those negative emotions really don't feel so great. But it is absolutely the truth that we come here to experience them, whether they are good or they are bad. Because once again, from that higher self or that source perspective, there is no such thing as good or bad. There just is. So thinking about every experience that we have has an emotional component to it. If we dive down to the most inconsequential moments, even those have emotional ties. Let's say that you receive a text message. Even if you don't know who it is yet, you just hear the sound or you see the light up on your phone, you know you're going to have an emotional response to it. Maybe you are busy, and so the sound is actually annoying. So you go into a frustration state. Maybe you're bored, so the sound is exciting, like, yay, something's going to happen, something other than me just sitting here being bored. Maybe you're expecting a text from someone that you don't like, so you're like, oh gosh, another one of those. Or you're expecting a text from someone that you're excited to talk to, and so you instantly have that reaction. This is before you've even looked to see who's on the phone, right? So we tie to every second, every moment, some sort of an emotional response. And what's interesting too is that every experience that we have, even physical pain, has an emotional response to it. Yes, we receive the negative feedback from physical pain, but we also associate a negative emotion to that as well. All right, so I had this really fun kind of discovery about all of this when I was speaking with a friend of mine who lives out of the country. And so we would actually just send each other text messages, or I'm sorry, voice messages, rather than actually speaking, just because time zone differences and whatever. So there was one day that I left my friend this funny little voice message, and I was all excited about it. I was like proud of myself. Oh, this is clever and this is funny, and oh, she's really going to like this. And so I sent the message. A couple of days later, we actually had a chance to speak verbally. And I remembered that I sent her the message, and I said, oh, hey, what'd you think of that message that I sent you the other day? And she said, oh my gosh, it was so clever and funny and great. Yeah, I really liked that. And that made me feel good, right? So I'm having a positive emotional response to it. And then I said, do you happen to remember what it was about? It's been a couple of days and now I've actually kind of forgotten. And she looked at me, or she said to me, Oh man, I was afraid you were going to ask that. She's like, I don't remember either. I just remember that I really liked it. So I had this moment where I thought, well, I should re-listen to it or look it up. And then I went, why? I've already had the emotional experience that I was looking for. I already felt good about sending it. And then she gave me the feedback that she enjoyed it. And I felt good about that as well. Oh my gosh. So that means that the actual reason for having the emotional experiences aren't really that important at all. All that matters is that we actually have the emotional experiences. And so we really can embrace every possible thing that we could ever experience. So let's take a step back and say, what are emotions? What are these things that we crave so much? What are the ones that we don't want? And what are the ones that we do want? Actually, they are frequencies and they carry information. Our bodies are essentially like radio receivers, and we tune in and interpret the emotional frequency of every emotion that comes at us. So let's say that you are experiencing a negative emotional experience. Maybe you're experiencing an extreme fear. The waveform, the frequency, carries with it the instructions for your body as to how to respond to this situation. Because here it is, situation, you're in danger, you have an emotional need. So your body says, what emotion are we going to tune into? Oh, extreme fear. We know that one, whoop, and we tune into that frequency. And that frequency says, pump the adrenaline, change the thought process, limit the mind so that we can only focus on survival at this moment, so we can move into a flight or fight response. So now we're tuned into that emotion. And if you could, and so at that moment, now we're going to have an extreme response. We're going to run, we're going to fight. So if you think about it from the perspective of you as just this radio frequency, what if you could turn your dial to any frequency that you want at any time, rather than being kind of slave to situation and response? What if you could say, oh, I want to tune into excitement right now. I want to tune into gratitude. Maybe you're languishing in frustration or unworthiness. And if you could just tune your radio dial, I've got a knob here on my chest. I'm just going to tune it and go, oh, yay, excitement. That's all I have to worry about now. Yay, I don't have to do anything. That would be really amazing, wouldn't it? And that is essentially what's happening. So how can we get access to be able to tune that dial? Well, we can actually. So one of the modalities that I do, I work with the Hathors, which is an extra dimensional collective like the Pleiadians or the Arcturians. And they've taught me an awful lot about all these different kinds of healing modality activations that I can do. And really one of my favorites is being able to retune people's emotions. So with just a turn of a dial, with a momentary activation, I can change it so that you're tuning in to a different frequency. So but I think that the most important one is that let's add another knob to our chest. What if we could change the volume? So if you were experiencing extreme fear frequency, what if we could turn a dial so that now you are experiencing still a fear frequency, but it is so minor in comparison that now it just gives you a little bit of maybe a flutter in your chest or your stomach. And your mind is now clear and you can actually focus on the things that you want to be able to focus on. You don't have this cloudiness or this disruption in your life. That feels a lot better, right? Like, okay, now I can handle whatever the situation is. So this is essentially what those activations can do. And what it's doing is it's changing it so that those negative experiences are no longer so negative. So, and then what happens is every time you tune into it, every time you listen to that activation, then you're training your body to tune into that lower, less painful frequency each time, which is incredible, right? So one of the reasons that I believe that we have panic attacks is because we're tuning into an emotional frequency that we needed when we were children, when we were having some sort of trauma moment, right? And so what happened is that trauma experience, we had an extreme emotional response. Well, the body said, okay, we're giving you an extreme emotional response so that you survive, because that's what all this is about. So if you've done this, if you've had this experience, now your body says, hey, guess what? We're still alive. That worked. So we were going to remember this emotional frequency, and we're going to use it a lot. We're going to use it throughout the rest of your life because we realize how effective it is. It's like, oh no, now we're going to have these extreme emotional reactions to things that are considerably less painful or way less necessary. So now what do we have to do? We have to, again, retune the body so that it knows, no, we don't need to tune into that one. We can tune into a much different one. So that is one of the main things that I'm able to do, and I absolutely love doing it because it's very quick and very easy. I had one situation, the very first time I did it, actually. My friend had called me because she felt that her boyfriend had been cheating on her, and she was upset. She was beside herself. She was not clarity of mind. She was almost panicking and crying and having all these experiences. And I had just kind of gotten the idea that maybe I could do something like this. She's telling me all of it. And I said, can I give you an activation? And she was just like, yeah, whatever, just do something, right? So I removed the negative signature. I retuned her jealousy experience to a way less negative one. And all of a sudden, as soon as I did it, she said, oh, okay, well, I guess maybe that wasn't so bad, or maybe this was a good lesson, and maybe he's not the right guy for me, and maybe I could look at it differently. And then she stopped and she said, wait a minute, what did you do to me? Because I didn't explain to her what the activation was. I just did it just to kind of see what would happen. And it was absolutely miraculous. And I use this all the time for people who are experiencing anger or nervousness or worry or whatever. So there's a number of those activations that are available on my website. And if there isn't one that you need, let me know and I will record it for you. Okay. So now we kind of understand emotions a little bit. And the other thing that we know is that we know what they feel like. We are very good at understanding what the emotional experience absolutely is. It's loud and clear. They scream at us. We can dive in and explore them, and we can discover how intricate they are. And we can also tell you right away, right, whether an emotion is good or an emotion is bad. There is no doubt that we understand that feeling. And why do emotions carry with them a good experience and a bad experience? Well, once again, we have to go back to survival. If it felt good to be in a fear situation, then we would more likely put ourselves in fear situations all the time. We would constantly be saying, oh, wow, that feels great. I want to get really close to the edge of that cliff and like balance over the edge and see if I can, oh, I fell off. Oh, well, that felt pretty good too. Oh, okay, dead. So now that means that we are not going to be able to survive long enough for us to incarnate into this species. So it's very important that fear feels bad so that we avoid the situation in the first place. And then fear feels good so that we follow it. We go, oh yeah, I really want to, I'm sorry, not fear. A positive emotion feels good so that we follow it. And we go, oh, I want to experience romantic love, because it's going to further the species, right? But it feels really good. So I am encouraged to do that. It's my incentive program, essentially, for survival. That means we can be complete idiots. Like we can survive without having a clue that we need to survive, because all we have to do is tune in to these basic urges, these basic instincts. And we know this without even having to know it. And our emotional system is the core of that survival experience. And so if you think about it, this is a positive reinforcement and a negative reinforcement kind of scenario. So we are essentially being trained like dogs by our emotions. So we know what to do and what not to do. Okay, so that is a good description, hopefully, of the terrestrial emotions. So now we have to move over to the spirit emotions, unconditional love. So what is unconditional love? Romantic love is not. I can tell you what it's not. Romantic love is not unconditional love, right? Unconditional love is not reciprocal, or at least it doesn't need to be. I unconditionally love all the people in Mongolia, right? I don't know anybody there. I don't know a single person. But I can love them and they never have to love me back. Unconditional love does not need to be declared. I don't have to send everyone in Mongolia a card that says, "Hi, I unconditionally love you. Love, Xane," right? That'd be stupid. No, they would be like, okay, whatever. So it's not important that it needs to be declared, and it does not need to be reciprocated, and it doesn't even need to be shown. So unconditional love, of course, we've already talked about this, is not a survival emotion. It actually gets in the way of survival. It's actually detrimental to survival. So unconditional love is not a natural 3D emotional experience. Think about that. Unconditional love is not a natural 3D experience. The only way that we can experience unconditional love is if we move from the 4 to the 5th dimension. Okay, so what is unconditional love? It is a few things. It is eternal. We already talked about that. It's what we're made of. It's what everything is made of. Everything is unconditional love. And in that way, the only thing that actually exists in all of the world, in all of the universe, in all of the dimensions, in all of existence is unconditional love. It's self-love, source loving itself. And it might be the only thing that is perfect. If it's the only thing that is perfect and everything is unconditional love, that means that everything is perfect. Okay. So let's step back again. We have to look at the fact that our bodies tune into emotions for survival, and we are survival creatures. We're programmed to survive. We tune into those emotions. And what did we say about the terrestrial emotions versus the spirit emotions? That the terrestrial emotions are very easily felt by us. But that unconditional love is not a survival emotion. I keep saying the same thing over and over again, but it's really important. So the system by which we experience emotions does not apply to unconditional love. So the way that you thought or that you think that you are going to feel unconditional love can't be trusted because it's not the same system. The system for survival has all these physiological responses. Like I said, we know what emotions feel like. We know the pain or the fluttering in the chest or the energy that we receive from a positive emotion. We know it really well. And so we're so tuned into that emotional system that also ultimately means that we're actually not tuned in to the unconditional love system because we haven't needed to. But we're moving from a 3D existence, a 3D consciousness, to a 5D. So guess what? It's going to be coming online more and more. So the other thing that I think is interesting is that many of you have said, I feel unconditional love. Or many of you say, I don't know what it feels like. I haven't felt it. I don't understand. Because unconditional love is not the same as the unconditional love that you maybe have for a child or the unconditional love that we have for a pet. It's still different than that because there are actually still conditions, even though you don't ever want to admit it, there are still some conditions in that case. True, pure, unconditional love is, again, in a separate category. So if you were trying to feel it by using the current terrestrial emotion system, you're probably not going to. And that's what's really wild about this. So the systems that you're used to using are not set up. And like, again, you have a pain in your stomach, you have those experiences. These are survival systems. They don't apply. So what if I were to say to you that you feel unconditional love all the time, that you are constantly feeling unconditional love, that it's always there and it has always been there. It's not actually a bliss state like you've been kind of hoping. It's not a misery state. It's just always there, riding around with you every single day. It's who you are, and it's what you are made of. So what if I were to say to you that to feel unconditional love, you only have to state it. You only have to recognize it. You only have to accept it. You only have to allow it. You only have to acknowledge it. All you have to do is simply say, I love unconditionally. I love unconditionally. That's what I do. I just love unconditionally. You don't have to select an object. You don't have to select a destination or a target. You just love unconditionally. Loving unconditionally is loving for no reason, right? Because that's, if there's a reason, then that's a condition. So you are an unconditional love machine. This is a declaration statement of what you do. I love unconditionally. A mail clerk says, I handle mail. A salesperson says, I sell product. But you say, I love unconditionally. This can be your new mantra. Close your eyes and just say, I love unconditionally. Oh my God. Oh, I love unconditionally. I love unconditionally. When I do that, I like see the universe. Like when I close my eyes and I say, I love unconditionally, all I see are the stars, nebula, planets. It's where I'm supposed to be. It's who I truly am. And we are all this. And that's what's so amazing, is that we spend so much of our life striving to get somewhere. We're always trying to ascend more and become more enlightened, or to be more successful. We've been driven this in our heads since we were children. Oh my gosh, but it's already right there. It's already accessible. All you have to do is acknowledge it. You are truly a being of light. You don't have to become a being of light. You already are. You are already an unconditional lover. All you have to do is realize it, is recognize it. Oh my gosh, I'm an unconditional lover. That's it. So when you state that you love unconditionally, you move out of the animalistic brain. You go into a brand new place. This is your new default position. When you are feeling bad, when you are worried, when you are upset, when you are confused, when you don't know what's going to happen next, just say this: I love unconditionally. I don't have to love this the house unconditionally, or my spouse unconditionally, or my dog unconditionally. You just love unconditionally. I feel like I peer into infinity when I have this experience. So what do you love unconditionally? Nothing. Everything. No reason to state what it is you love. No reason to ponder it. You just love unconditionally. If you do this activation or this meditation, right, and you say, I love unconditionally, and if the mind comes in and says, well, wait, what do we love unconditionally? You're not allowed to answer. Don't respond. Either let your guides or your higher self respond, maybe, but don't respond to that question, because that question does not need an answer. Whew, what a relief, right? Like you're off the hook. There's no more stress. There's no more efforting. We effort all the time. You don't have to effort anymore. You just love unconditionally. Oh my gosh, it's what you do. And how do you love unconditionally? You love without judgment, without condition. So that's what the 0 point existence is all about. An incredible state of non-judgment. 0 point is the field of infinite possibility where all reality is created from. That is our sourceness. You came from a place of unity consciousness, and that's where you're going to return to. And judgment just simply cannot come from this. Let's think about this for a second. Where does judgment come from? Does it come from your higher self? No. Does it come from source? No way. Does it come from the collectives, the fifth dimension, the ascended masters? No, they're not judging. Your guides? No, they're not judging. The angels? There's no judgment going on there. Well, wait a minute. So that means that there's only one place in all of existence that judgment comes from: these primitive, silly survival brains. That's where judgment comes from. Judgment. You need judgment in order for your tribe to survive. If your tribe is having a normal day and there's one of your tribe members is making a whole bunch of noise, being silly and ridiculous, and there you think, oh my gosh, this person needs to shut the heck up because they're going to attract our predators or the rival tribe. And so you're judging them, saying, shut up, don't do that. Or you judge yourself, oh my gosh, I screwed up and I'm going to be ousted from the tribe. Judgment is a survival experience. So if you are not in a survival place, then you don't have to judge anymore. Everything is perfect exactly as it is. So, and one of the reasons that this is so difficult for us to access is because we're so good at seeing the flaws. Because once again, that's another survival thing. As soon as you see a flaw, it could mean the death of you or your tribe. So you have to take action as soon as you see flaws. So we're trying to reverse engineer all this very natural programming. So that's the other way to look at this, is to don't beat yourself up over judging too much. Oh, wait a minute. What did I just say there? Don't judge yourself for judging too much. You can relax. You can rest. You can be okay with absolutely everything exactly as it is, because it's been created that way. You've created it that way as source to have this exact experience. So congratulations, you did it. And the problem with picking a target of your unconditional love is that you'll see those flaws. So that's why I say again, I just love unconditionally. That's what I do. That's all I am. So let's go back to just for a moment and think about if you have fear of being judged. Okay, so now you're worried that other people are judging you. One of the ways that I really like to overcome this one is to say, wait a minute. So what version of them is judging me? We just went through this, right? Is it their higher selves? No. Is it their sourceness? No. Oh my gosh, it's their silly survival brains. So who am I going to give more credence to? Who am I going to listen to? Who is more important in that situation? Definitely their higher self, definitely the source perspective. So I'm not going to give any credence to that primitive survival brain judging me. Oh, well, go ahead. Enjoy. I'm going to stay in the place of my higher self. I'm going to stay in the place of source and recognize that me and everyone else, including the person who's judging you using their primitive brains, are perfect. So who are you going to give more credence to? Neanderthal mind, because that's essentially what we're talking about, or universal knowledge? I think it's pretty simple. I don't have to be worried about being judged by the Neanderthal mind. So this presentation was called How to Love Unconditionally. And the answer is simply, you already do. Okay, now I want to see how much time I have left. Okay, good. I got about 10 minutes. So what I want to go ahead and do now is a couple of activations for everyone. Thank you so much for tuning into this and to listening to that presentation. So if you would like, please go ahead and close your eyes and take a nice big deep breath and relax as you exhale. Really feel yourself sinking into this chair that you're sitting in. I mean, really relax. Allow yourself to feel this moment of relaxation. If you have any tightness anywhere, find it and release it. Maybe it's in your sides. Maybe it's in your neck. Maybe it's in your jaw. Just release it. And so I want to go ahead and do an emotion retuning activation. I think I would like to do fear, because of course it is the most dominant emotion that we experience. So the first thing we're going to do here is we're going to remove the negative signature from the emotion fear that you're experiencing right now. The way my activations work is I'm going to say breath in. And when I do, you're going to take a nice big deep breath. You're going to hold it at the top. And you're going to wait for me to say the keyword, the action word, awaken. And then you can exhale. So removing the negative signature from fear. Breath in. Oh, wait. Good. Received good feedback on that. So at this point, I'm going to give a very quick version of the soul essence activation. I only have about 7 minutes or so, but we're just going to move through each of the chakras. The chakras carry with them this incredible energy, this incredible truth about yourself. And so we're just going to go ahead and clear each one. We're going to transform them, really. We're going to be bringing the best versions of your past incarnations forward into your current one using these energy centers of the body. The root chakra is located at the base of the spine, and it is in charge of your survival fears, your nuclear family. Breath in. Oh, excellent. Moving up to your sacral chakra. This is located just 2 inches below the belly button and has everything to do with your relationships, your creativity, your romantic relationships. Breath in. Oh, excellent. Many of you needed that. I felt it. Okay, moving up to the solar plexus. Located just below the rib cage, this is your center for your ego, for your self-worth and your self-confidence. Breath in. Oh, very good. Moving up to the heart chakra, right center, dead in your chest, perfect chakra, because this is your place of unconditional love. Breath in. Oh, I would love for you to take a moment now and take your energy field and extend it down into the surface, into the earth, just under the surface, and feel the negative ion exchange. You're going to be grounding yourself between you and Mother Gaia. And one of the ways you can often feel this is a little bit of a tingling at the bottoms of your feet. Before we do the throat chakra, you might notice that your throat is a little bit tight now. That's because all the energy that's moving through those lower chakras is trying to come up through your throat and up to the top of your head and out the top of your head. So we'll go ahead and resolve this now. The throat chakra. Breath in. Oh, good. Okay, moving up to the third eye chakra. This is your place of discernment, how you observe rather than just be. This is where your power truly lies. Breath in. Oh, Beautiful. Now you might notice a little bit of tightness now on the top of your head, as this is the last chakra that needs to be opened fully. You can feel that energy moving through your lower 6 chakras and being blocked a little bit by the top of the head. At this time, I would like for you to extend your energy field once more, this time deeper into the earth, way deeper, and feel these roots going out in all directions as you take that energy field and dive it deeper and deeper. Feel yourself rooted to this incredible, beautiful planet. The crown chakra. Breath in. Oh, yeah. Excellent. When you're ready to love unconditionally, to claim that truth about yourself, to be that, to embody it, then I invite you to open your eyes. That was some very high vibrational energy. So if it's the first time you've ever experienced anything like this, or it's been a little while, then you could go through a little bit of a recovery process. This is fairly normal. You may feel extra tired. You may feel extra wide awake when you want to sleep. It could be any number of those things. So understand, you might even feel an extreme emotional response at some point within the next 24 to 48 hours. So understand that it's normal, and all you have to do is reconcile the energy, which happens very naturally. So thank you again so much for watching this video. And I love you unconditionally. This is not just a video, right? This is the Higher Self Expo. Thank you so much for being here. It's such a pleasure.